Hey everyone, welcome to Taste Different Gaming Appetizers. What are we talking about tonight? Well, we've a lot of documentation and things like that have come out from Xbox from this whole FTC. Their acquisition of Activision Blizzard has really brought to light a lot of information I'm sure Microsoft wouldn't like, especially these recent leaked documents, right? These are documents that shouldn't have gotten out, but somehow they did. And so we're finding out a lot about the the business behind the business for Microsoft on their side. So one of the things is that Microsoft may exit the gaming business if Game Pass subscribers off console don't increase enough by 2027. So the document revealed basically that FTC lawyer James Weingarten put an internal Xbox Game Pass slide in front of Phil Spencer, asking him on whether he agreed the projections that show the subscription service surpassing 100 million users between FY29 and FY30, largely due to the increase in PC and cloud markets. So it's basically a diagram showing that cloud gaming, PC gaming, and console gaming are in this upscale, right? Going year to year, quarter to quarter, all the way up to 2027 or 2030, right? Spencer said in no uncertain terms that Microsoft could exit the gaming business if this projection became reality. Basically, where PC gaming and cloud gaming outdo console gaming, right? Console gaming is down here and everything else is above it. Microsoft needs the light green in this case, they say, and blue segments, which are PC and cloud gaming, right? These are the higher segments of this graph. To get much larger, much faster by fiscal year 2027, or it could opt out of the business altogether. They say, I do not believe that this is the future of Xbox business would look like. This is a presentation from our devices organization to the gaming leadership team. So this is a view from the team that is centered with building our hardware on what the future business would look like. So basically, they're just using this information as a projection to say like, hey, this is kind of what we expect things to progress in. And so we need to, focus on these markets to follow that projection is pretty much what this slide means, right? It says, I can fairly safely say that if we do not make more progress than this off of console, we would exit the gaming business. If this were the outcome, we would. I don't believe we'd still be in the business, is what Spencer said. The majority of our customers are found off our own hardware. I would hope by earlier than 2030. So when you ask me if I agree with the chart that the light green and the blue, depending on what colors you see would happen, you see there would happen to be much larger, much earlier. I would say by FY 26-27 that we should be in that position, or we have to make a difficult decision with the business. So what he's saying is by 2027, based on this graphical chart outline, that by then that projection would need to be there, or they would need to have a serious thought process about how, if they're not, the future of the business for them at that point, right? Now, again, these are old documents and stuff like this, and this is really just a chart showing projection. Basically, like he said, he's presenting where they think the market's going to go, the gaming market in the future, and how it's going to progress. And basically saying to the leadership team, we need to make sure we follow this trend. This is kind of what we need to strive for, right? This uptick as the future progresses, right? Which makes sense. I mean, a lot of business places do that, right? They want to see growth, not like, oh, we should do this, it's like, no, that's not going to make any sense. Right. So, and especially since Microsoft's acquisitions of ZeniMax and now Activision Blizzard and things like that, it seems like they're going to stay in the gaming realm for long, for the extended period of time, right? I don't see Microsoft getting out of the gaming business by 2023, but I do see Microsoft possibly changing the business model by then, right? I could see them not have consoles whatsoever in the future. Their consoles right now don't do so hot. They could have a console in the future, but I think it would be something more of a streaming box or something like that, right? I feel like Microsoft with Xbox is going more in the lines of a service than a product, right? Or a product as a service, right? That type of thing, where basically, or service as a product, or however they say it. But basically, like, Xbox, Game Pass, Xbox in general, it's just a service, right? It's a service that you can stream on your television. I mean, you can do this stuff now, right? You can stream it on your TV, you can stream it on your phone, you can stream it on your computer. We have Game Pass where you can download these games onto X, Y, and Z devices, be your PC, or maybe in the future they have an ability where you could download the game onto your television, right? And just play it natively off the TV, right? And so on and so forth, right? I don't know about natively off the TV. I mean, the TV would really have, that'd be an expensive television, but still, something like that. Or maybe it would still have to stream in some way. But I mean, like, as cloud technology expands and things like that, I could see Microsoft going that route, right? Because their consoles just don't do so hot for them. They just haven't. And even with the Series X, which is a great console, we've talked about before how the Series S is hurting them, and it's going to continue to hurt them, right? And depending on what they do with the next console release, if they decide to release a next console, which I assume they probably will, what are they going to do with that console at that point, right? Are they going to be smart about it, or are they going to go with the same approach of having a less than and a greater than type console like they did with the Series S and X? So I don't see this, them exiting the gaming business, and I don't even see them exiting the gaming business in the future. The biggest thing I could see them doing is changing their approach, their current approach, right? You can kind of see them going that direction today, with how they're doing with Game Pass and things like that, and introducing Game Pass into so many different things, right? They're trying to really expand Game Pass into everything. It wasn't too long ago that Samsung TVs come with Xbox Game Pass already installed right on it, and stuff like that. So they're trying to expand that out. So that way in the future, they don't have to have a console, right? Or if they do have a console, it's more of a streaming box where you can basically just buy the box, you hook it up to your television. If you don't have kind of like what they did with smart TVs, right? With like Roku and stuff, right? If you didn't have a smart television, you can get a Roku, and that made it a smart TV, right? Because the Roku, you would connect to all the Netflix and everything like that. They don't have that. I mean, they still have Rokus today, but I mean, you can get, Roku did one thing smart by taking their application and putting it into TVs, right? You can get the Roku televisions, or the televisions that have Roku in it, right? Instead of just being a device that you hook in, because they knew eventually the market would take it to where all smart TVs all TVs will be smart TVs, right? And then people will eventually buy out of the TVs they had, and so on and so forth. So we could see that with Xbox, I think, in the future, where Xbox is no longer a device. They'll probably still sell controllers and accessories and things like that, but consoles may, for them, I don't think for PlayStation, but I think for them, might go by the wayside, and they're more of just a service that they provide. What do you think about the slide, Shane, and the whole information about the projections, and then, of course, what you see for the future of Microsoft and Xbox?
Well, I see their future as confused as their past. So I love Microsoft's Xbox console. I've been an Xbox fan since day one, but they keep making really dumb moves. Granted, their biggest mistakes the last 2 generations have been games, just plain and simple. Good hardware, just no games. That's their fault. Nobody else's. Now, I agree with you. I see this as, I think Microsoft is smart in many ways. So I know they've got plans set up for future proofing their gaming market. Now, because there's all been rumors for a long time, built-in Xbox for cloud gaming on Samsung, and there was rumors about Xbox dongles, or how you want to call it, kind of like the Roku sticks are. I have a Roku stick in my bedroom TV. It's an older TV. Stick my Roku in her, and it works great for streaming movies. Now, granted, I am absolutely, utterly, adamantly frickin' opposed to streaming video games. Never going to happen in my household, ever. I'll take that to the bank. And I see Microsoft doing that, though. I see Microsoft going the streaming route. I believe that was one of the FTC's biggest complaints, was saying Microsoft would monopolize the streaming market with their purchase of Activision. Now, Activision Blizzard has a lot of stuff. Okay. They have mobile, they have MMOs, they have console, they have everything. They hit every freaking realm of video game entertainment on every device. I don't know where streaming's at right now, but I can tell you that Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard is not going to rule streaming for that acquisition. Plain and simple. A game isn't going to make or break streaming. And if that's what the FTC was counting on, that graph, I don't see that making sense. Streaming will take off eventually, but I don't think it'll be led by Microsoft. But I think Microsoft will start that charge. And I think this graph and these leaks kind of show that they're thinking about that already. And all the rumors about the dongles and built into the Samsungs and things like that, they're going to push forward towards it. I don't see Microsoft ever getting out of the gaming market, but I can see the console market. I really can. The reason they can't keep up with Sony is because they make too many dumbass decisions. Phil Spencer has been a godsend for the Xbox community. But if he's the one deciding to put out a extremely low powered console and a high powered console and say that developers have to make games work for both, that's a bad thing. The naming conventions, I know I give shit about it, but the naming conventions are one of the hardest things for Xbox gamers, because when this gen came out, you go to buy a game. Do you want it on the Xbox One, the Xbox One X, the Xbox One S, the Xbox One SX? It's stupid. Just like the Wii U debacle. And I know I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but Microsoft got to quit shooting their own goddamn foot, plain and simple. Or that chart that chart needs to be mirrored, and it's just all going to go down goddamn hill, plain and simple. So, Game Pass is a beautiful subscription service. I love my Game Pass. Right now we're playing Lies of P, and then, Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out. We want to play that. It's Game Pass is a great service, and it's a great ideal. Streaming is not. So this whole leaks, I should say, because they're talking about the mid-gen consoles, new controllers, and all this. One thing this leak should talk about was games that are coming out, because there's just not enough of those leaks. We don't get enough of those leaks. So I don't see Microsoft getting out of the gaming industry, period, bar none, no matter what happens with them in the console industry. I see them coming out with dongles. I see them coming out with built into the TVs, streaming setups. That's where it's going to be. Right now, we don't have the infrastructure for that. That's their biggest crutch they got to get over. But remember when Microsoft announced the original Xbox and it came out with Ethernet only? People are like, well, only like 2% of the world has Ethernet. Shit, man! As soon as I bought that console, hey ATT, what's that thing cost with the fat wire that makes the internet? that was my technology talk at the time, and I can't remember what I paid for it, but it was worth it. Microsoft revolutionized the gaming industry with the original Xbox. Now, granted, they did ride the back of the Dreamcast, which is the most underrated console of all time. But Microsoft knows what they're doing. They wouldn't be in the game this long if it wasn't for trying to future-proof themselves. So they're going to get out of the console market eventually. But then again, I think Sony will too. I think Sony will try to ride the back of the streaming market. Now, Nick, you're a tech guy. You know computers and stuff. You tell me what's wrong with my crap all the time. Would it be more? Try to make sure I phrase this without sounding like I need to wear a helmet. The infrastructure of streaming, music, movies, things like that's all out there. I don't know how it all works compared to, say, streaming a game where you got to have to and fro. Now, would it be cheaper to create? Now, let's say you had amazing internet. The world had amazing internet, 150 teraflops of internet. Would it be cheaper to create a device to stream that game and give you XYZ quality compared to now? Or to create a hardware that directly does, to create a machine that directly does it right there? So, as far as a dongle, that kind of infrastructure, or an actual hardware device like the Xbox, PlayStation, which would be, you think would be cheaper in the
for the consumer?
For both. So let's say Microsoft is the stream. So
the dongle would you'd probably pay like $50 for the dongle.
Okay, a $50 dongle. But we don't do it because streaming sucks. Too many
for gaming,
variables.
This the input lag and stuff like that. It's a lot. And games run graphically higher and frame rate. Things like that, right? Movies and TV shows are pretty much the same across the board for the most part, as far as like how many frames they're recorded at, and then you have different levels of clarity, like 4K or 1080 or whatever. Whereas games, there's just a lot more going on. There's so it's not necessarily the servers that are hosting it. It is the connection between you and the servers that are hosting that game, right? That'd be your biggest contender. Like if we had the 1 trillion gigaflips of internet, then yeah. I mean, then if we had that fast of internet with like, almost like you're playing on a box, then nobody would give a crap about a box. They would just use that.
But
there wouldn't be a point. Like as a consumer, what would be the point of having a box if you could just pop on a game and it plays just like a box was sitting right there in front of you?
And that would be amazing. But then you would never own a game.
No, they don't want you to ever own a game.
No. And you don't own any now.
You don't now unless you buy physical. And
no, you don't own it then because you still have to be connected to the internet.
For most games, yeah.
95% of games, you have to be connected to
right. Not every game, but yeah, a lot of the games you have to be connected, even if they're single player games and stuff like that, right? So if these servers go down, if they don't offer any sort of offline option, then you're kind of screwed with them, even on a physical sense of it. No. But yeah, anything digital, right? I mean, you're kind of just stuck to whatever, so you're kind of in that boat now, with how the market is today. But I agree with you. I think Microsoft will go the route of, like I said as well, of not having consoles right now as it stands. I mean, Microsoft, we've talked about this before. Microsoft really needs to do something because as it stands right now, I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation, I have a Switch, I have a gaming PC. As it stands today, this is today. In the future, it may change, but as it stands today, I don't, besides two things, besides Game Pass and besides Game Share, I don't have any other, I can't think of any other reason to own an Xbox.
I couldn't argue with that, honestly. I mean, me and Nick have been game sharing for a long time, ever since the ability to happen. You know, we read about it, heard about it, tried it out, loved it, been doing it since. And it's a great service. You know, it's not cheating, it's not anything like that. It's a service that Microsoft allows, and I love it. And then Game Pass is one of the most innovative things to now. As a customer, I'm going to say this. I don't know about game development, but I'm just saying, as a customer, Game Pass is one of the greatest things to ever come out. Period. Period. Bar none. Period. At the end, it's perfect to have. Granted, you know there are times that it's a little lackluster this month because, you know, you played all the good ones because Microsoft doesn't put out near enough first party games, but it does get some really solid games that we've truly enjoyed. So it is it's a double-edged sword. You know, you're paying this much a month, and some months are really weak on games because Microsoft doesn't put out enough quality first party games. Now, granted, Sony has amazing first party games, but overall, I like the experience of the Xbox better, from the online infrastructure to the dashboard to the controller, all that stuff. Now, granted, the online community is apparently a little more toxic, just from what I've read. So, but I don't play enough with enough random people to think about that. So, Microsoft's going to go out of the consoles. They're going to slap a dongle or whatever with a controller and you'll be able to stream all your games. Now, Nick and I have both tried the streaming stuff on their games here and there, and I've not really had a terrible experience. Never had a perfect experience either, but I've never had a terrible experience. I've done it 3 or 4 times just to you know, try it out because, like, is it any better? Because I got a new internet provider and I wanted to see how much better they were, and then they're a lot better than what I used to have, but streaming is still not for me. And I just can never see myself playing streaming games constantly. It just don't feel right, and I don't like the ideal of it. You know, one internet fart and, you know, and then you're going to get slaughtered in a match, you know, cornholed in Fortnite. It's just too many variables. So, but we're going to see an X dongle probably. I won't say next generation, but I think next generation will be the last generation on a typical console.
Yeah, especially from Microsoft. Like, I don't see Sony
definitely Microsoft.
Yeah, I don't see Sony not having a console for a while, right? They might eventually, but I mean, their consoles make them, you know, probably they're always number one, the most sold thing. So they're not going to be like, next year we're not going to release one, because it's like, why wouldn't you, right? They sell out like hotcakes, so why not release another one? Whereas Microsoft's don't, right? They don't. And the reason why I say that, as things stand right now, I wouldn't even own an Xbox, is not because I do like the ecosystem and the online play and the controllers and things like that. I do enjoy, I really like those things compared to PlayStation in that sense. And the reason why is because it's like, when I think of all three consoles, I think of Sony and PlayStation, and it's like, or Xbox and PlayStation. I think of both of those and I go, Microsoft, the problem with Microsoft is they don't have enough exclusives, right? Most of the games that come out on the Xbox are multi-platform. So it's like, really, I don't have a purpose of owning an Xbox. I own a PlayStation because those games only come out on that console. That's the only way I can play them. Spider-Man 2 is coming out soon, and I'm sure it will come to PC at some point. I don't think it's going to be releasing for PC day and date.
Probably a year, because I think that's about the average when a first-party Sony game goes to PC.
Right. So, like, if Sony did the same thing, right? For example, if they did day and date on their, it'd be better if they did on their PlayStation service, but they don't. But let's say they did release Spider-Man 2, for example, at the same time on PC and PlayStation. I would make the same argument, saying, well, there's no point in having a PlayStation either, right? Just have a really nice, just take all that money that you would buy for an Xbox and a PlayStation, buy a really nice gaming rig, and just play on that, right? You can play all those games with a controller, so you're not missing out there. Just play them on your PC and you're good to go. You can even hook your PC up to your nice big TV and sit back on your couch and play it that way, right? The reason why I say it now, comparing the two, is because, again, the only games that come out on both are multi-platform games. Xbox doesn't have any exclusives anymore. The same game that comes out, Starfield, just came out recently on PC as well as Xbox. So if you have a gaming PC, you don't really have it. Again, you're out of the need of having an Xbox. Now, if you don't, then you might have a purpose. But again, the problem that Xbox has is they don't have enough of these releases, right? They don't have enough. It's not even the exclusive Xbox games. PlayStation gets a lot of third-party games that only come to PlayStation.
But they pay a lot of damn money for that. So
for exclusivities, yes. And I'm not talking about exclusivities though. I'm talking about like the lesser games, right? Like and they usually come out to Switch too. But like, for example, there's an RPG series that I absolutely love, which is the Trails of Heroes. Trails of Heroes. They just announced at TGS a new one coming out next year. They also announced a re-release of the Cold Steel series 3 and 4 coming out sometime soon, right? The third and fourth one, and they're only coming to PlayStation 5. Right, I think the new Trails game that's coming out next year is coming out to PlayStation 4 and 5 and Switch, I believe. But the re-release of 3 and 4 are coming to the PlayStation 5. So again, this is not Sony paying for exclusivity rights for these titles. These titles have never been on Xbox, probably never will be. There's so many of these games in this Trails series. Like, I think it's NIS that makes these games, or I believe, which is a Japanese company. So, of course, right, they're going to make it for the PlayStation. But like, we will probably never see these games come. And that's the games I'm talking about. The ones that come out to PlayStation just because they're, Square Enix does this a lot. They'll release their smaller titles, right? It's not Sony paying them some money. They just release it on PlayStation. That's it. Octopath Traveler 2 is finally coming to Xbox, like 2 years after it's been out on PlayStation.
Yeah, but you got to remember though, during the FTC trial, there was things coming out about Sony practices, and one of them was paying to not allow Microsoft to have those titles. Not to keep them exclusive to Nintendo or to Sony, but just to keep them off Microsoft. Sure. Now, that's a bullshit practice, plain and simple. If Square Enix wants to make a game for just PlayStation, fine, who gives a crap? But if your competitors are paying or bribing or threatening, so you don't put your stuff on a competitor, that's a load of crap. And Sony is definitely guilty of that kind of stuff. I mean, True. Sony has a lot of terrible business practices. Now, don't get me wrong. Microsoft's biggest problem is still Microsoft. Plain and simple. I mean, the Xbox problem is Xbox, plain and simple. But there are games that could have came out on Microsoft that weren't allowed to because little money exchanged hands. Now,
Sure.
Pepsi bought Taco Bell because they couldn't get anybody else to sell their product, and
Nobody
it
likes
turned
Pepsi.
out that's true. Pepsi is some rancid dog shit, but Coke was doing a thing to prevent these stores and restaurants from putting their product in there. So Pepsi bought their own damn restaurant chain, which it's Taco Bell. So you got gross going every direction now. So it's practices like that that really bother me. Sony, I love the console. I love the first party games, but I absolutely detest the company itself. They're horrendously bad. But that being said, that still doesn't change the fact that Microsoft, or let's just say Xbox, has all the problems that they deserve because they give it to themselves 9% of the time. Now, there are some goofy practices and wrong things that other companies do, but Microsoft goes out of business, at least on the console end, it's going to be on Microsoft's fault. Plain and simple. But Sony can still kiss my butt for paying for exclusivities all over the place and keeping things off of one competitor. I mean, if they said, hey, only for us, that's a little more understandable. But if they say, hey, you could put it on this, but not that, that's a load of shit.
Yeah. Well, I will say, and I'll end it with this. If Microsoft goes out of the gaming business, that gives Sega a chance to come out with the Dreamcast 2. And rise from the ashes like a phoenix, being reborn.
You know what? I will take that all day long. You see that little white beauty right there, right above my thumb? Greatest console, in my opinion. That was the most innovative console. That was the greatest console.
I loved my Dreamcast. My Dreamcast is over there. You can't see it, but it's over there. It's over there.
Yeah. It's over there.
It's over that way.
Yeah. Before we go, Microsoft, you have, well, one, you have to start listening to me. Two, but if you are listening to me, hire me because you got some dumbass people. Plain and simple. You need one console. 2 SKUs of it's fine as long as it's the same console with just a very minor difference. And 2, Xbox One, Xbox 2, Xbox 3. That's how names work. Or even give it a full freaking name like, Nintendo does. But Jesus Christ, quit shooting yourself in the foot. Phil, start slapping asses and getting people out of your way.
That's right. All right. You got anything else you want to say about this?
Slapping asses.
Slapping asses. Speaking of slapping asses, make sure to slap that like button and the subscribe button. Pop, and that notification bell so you can stay up to date with new videos that we do all the time. Let us know down in the comments. What do you think? Like I said, we own all the consoles and I enjoy them all. I like them all. I just really hope Microsoft, they need to do more, right? I mean, because like I said, besides Game Pass and Game Share, I don't really have another reason. I mean, besides liking the controller and stuff like that, when I look at like the money I spent, right, on these things, I'm like, I could do the same thing with one. I don't necessarily need both, right? But make me want to have both. That's what I'm saying, right? Starfield's great. It's not a perfect game. It's not a horrible game. It's an okay game. But you need more than that. I don't think that's going to turn that frown upside down quite yet. So hopefully the games coming out in the future, like Hellblade and, well, they have other ones that I can't think of at the top of my head, but Perfect Dark, if that ever comes out, and a new Gears game, if that ever happens, things like that might turn the ship around, but they really need to do it and do it fast, right? They need to give consumers a reason to buy an Xbox over a competitor. Really, that's what I'm saying. Give people a reason. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See ya.